Week 13 power ranking. Let's try to make some sense of the top 10 teams in the NFL going into Week 13.
Inside, and a beauty! Hall running free! Brees Hall inside the 10! He's gonna score!
What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Talking Just with Tigo. My name is Tigo, and today we're going to try to power rank and rank the top 10 teams in the NFL going into Week 13. Lots of possibilities and a lot of things that I have no idea what's going on with the top of this, the top of the NFL. There are so many teams that can really squeak in here, and I try to make sense of it from my opinion. But before we get into that, guys, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button to get all of the new Talking Just with Tigo content and to join and be a part of our 2,000 subscriber giveaway, which is going to be an NFL jersey of your choice. So hit that subscribe button and let your friends know. Share it on Twitter. Tell them about the channel so that we can get to 2,000 subscribers. I'm trying to get there before December, just because if I can hit 2,000 subscribers before my 6-month anniversary, that would be absolutely phenomenal. And I think that would be a really, really cool milestone to be able to hit. Last but not least, guys, if you want to become a member of the Patreon or get some Talking Just with Tigo merch or follow me on Twitter or anything like that, all of that stuff is in the description. A bunch of links down there. Go and click all of them. For less than a cup of coffee a month, you can help the channel and really support what I do here. I am a stay-at-home dad, so don't bring any income in, and I would love to do some things, more giveaways and stuff, and I can't do that without your help. But enough of that. Let's start power ranking these teams. I missed last week a lot of, if you don't know, I am obviously, like I just mentioned, a stay-at-home dad, and our son has started teething, so he's been really needy and needing a lot of attention, and my wife, because of the holidays and all that stuff, she works at a hospital, so she's picking up a lot of extra hours, and I'm going back to school, so we've got like finals prep and all of that stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on, so I missed last week, unfortunately, but we're back at it with this week, and at number 10, we're going to jump right into it. I have a team that I never had in my top 10 before, but I do have them there now, and that is the San Francisco 49ers. They are 7-4 is their record. They are 4-0 when it comes to division matchups. They did just come off of a win against New Orleans, and it was a dirty, ugly win. 13 points. The defense held super stout, holding the Saints to 0 points, a shutout. But San Francisco is playing exceptionally well. I love the roster that they've built in San Francisco, and I think as time goes on, this defense is going to gel more and more together. This offense is going to gel more and more together. We have to remember the amount of turnover that the San Francisco 49ers have had in their staff over the last couple of years has been a lot. They lost Robert Saleh, and Robert Saleh pulls Mike LaFleur with them. So they go from having 2 offensive coordinators, like a run game coordinator and a pass game coordinator, to having just an offensive coordinator and a brand new defensive coordinator in DeMeco Ryans. Then he's a first-time defensive coordinator. He does an exceptional job in the place of what Robert Saleh did, and now he's a second-year coordinator, and then the next hiring cycle comes up, and they lose McDaniel to the Miami Dolphins, so now they have another offensive coordinator whose name escapes me. There's a lot of turnover that's been happening with the San Francisco 49er coaching staff, and so I think this team is going to take a little bit more time to get gelled, for the play callers to understand that they're happening, and there's rumors that DeMeco Ryans might get a head coaching job in the NFL this cycle, which is more turnover for the San Francisco 49ers office, and again, when you have good players and when you have good people and things like that, they're going to get poached. It's a good problem to have, and they keep coming up with these exceptional coordinators who keep getting these jobs. So San Francisco slots in at number 10, and then at number 9, we have the G-Men, the New York Giants. They're actually the only team in my top 10 who actually lost a game last week. And I think it's really, really interesting because they lost to the Cowboys. And in my podcast, if you haven't watched that, go click and listen to the Talking Just with Tigo podcast, episode 3. But I mentioned how the NFC and the NFC East is super interesting right now. And they lost to the Cowboys, who are going to come up later on in the top 10 rankings. But the NFC East is absolutely insane. And the craziest part is we're at week 13, and most of these teams haven't played their divisional matchups yet. The Cowboys have the most divisional matchups right now in the NFC East with 4. They're 3-1, with the only loss being to the Eagles. But that being said, the Giants have only played 2 divisional games. The Commies have only played 3. The Eagles have only played 3. So that means that for the Giants, at least they have 4 more divisional games over the next 6 games, which is insane. The Commies have 3 over the next 6 games. The Eagles have 3 over the next 6 games. So the NFC East is legitimately up for grabs because every single one of those games and every single one of those teams is in the mix and being competitive. They're all over 7 wins. It's absolutely insane when we talk about what's going on in the NFC East, and the Giants are at number 9 for me on the power rankings. And then I think we move back over to the AFC and we start talking about the Cincinnati Bengals. Right now, I have the Cincinnati Bengals at number 8. I think that they're the best team right now in the AFC North, even though technically the Ravens lead that division because of the divisional record. They're 2-0 in the division, where the Bengals are 1-3. I think the Bengals are the better team. I think they have better weapons. I think they're better. They're better all around. They've got the better defense, and so the Baltimore Ravens don't make my top 10 list because of the fact that I think the Cincinnati Bengals are the better team. And down the stretch, I think they're going to prove that as it continues to go on. And then we move into this insane run. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, 7, 6, and 5 are all AFC East teams. But I put them in order of record, and that's it. That's what I did there. That's because I think that at 7, I have the New York Jets, right? And I think that the New York Jets absolutely should be at 7. They probably should be higher, in my honest opinion. But you got to put respect where respect is due. And at number 6, I have the Miami Dolphins. And at number 5, I have the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are 8-3. The Dolphins are 8-3. They have better records, and it would be a little bit too much of me looking at the top 10 with Gotham green colored glasses. And if I put the New York Jets above both of those teams, even though we've beat both of those teams, they right now have better records. So that's why they go there. The New York Jets coming off of a big win against Chicago with a new quarterback under center and Mike White. We're going to have to see what that happens because they're going to face another top 10 team this week in Minnesota. And this is going to be a good matchup, and it's going to have a lot of playoff implications because beating Minnesota is going to help our record, and that's a team that beat the Buffalo Bills. So not that it matters against the tiebreak, but it's just one of those things that's a team that we beat and they lost, and it helps our record out. And it obviously didn't help their record at all. And then the Miami Dolphins got a really, really easy week, just like the New York Jets did. And they played the Texans, so they got a relatively easy win there. And they face another difficult opponent this week in Miami. They have to travel all the way to San Francisco. And we know how hard of a trip that is, going across the country in either direction. So this is a big game. And I'm going to have to be a San Francisco 49ers fan this week because you're hoping that they can beat the Miami Dolphins. But like I said, a lot of interesting matchups coming up. And then another one with the Buffalo Bills, who I have at 5. They were able to play the Detroit Lions, a really, really close game, even though it probably shouldn't have been. The Buffalo Bills should have blown them out, but the Buffalo Bills haven't looked like the Buffalo Bills. There's a lot of chinks in the armor, and teams are taking advantage of it, and the Lions almost pulled it out. But the Buffalo Bills continue a relatively easy run, and they get to play at New England, and that's a team that they should beat. So if all goes well this week, the New York Jets beat Minnesota. The Buffalo Bills, maybe they lose to New England. Either way, either team winning doesn't help the New York Jets. In an ideal world, the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots would tie. But that doesn't really help, and the 49ers beat it, and the New York Jets, boom, jump right up to the number 1 spot in the AFC East, and they jump up to the probably number 5 or number 4 spot in my top 10, because that's probably where they deserve to be. But there's your 7, 6, and 5. At number 4, I have the Dallas Cowboys. They are 8-3. you got to put some respect on the record, right? 8-3, having 8 wins is an impressive thing to do. Even though I don't necessarily love what the Dallas Cowboys have done with their roster, they do have an incredibly good defense, and you cannot forget what they did to Minnesota 2 weeks ago, right? Beating Minnesota the way that they did, a team that I right now have above them in the power rankings at number 3, is incredibly impressive. And like we mentioned at number 9, they did beat the New York Giants, another top 10 team in my estimation. And that's incredibly impressive. And it has a lot of playoff implications for the NFC East, which is in a super interesting division right now in that conference. It's really cool to watch football and not have a stake in it because you don't care, because they're on the other side and there's teams that are playing that don't affect you, and you can just be a fan of football when you watch the Eagles, the Cowboys, and the Giants play, even though I root perpetually against the Eagles because Philly fans, they took the, because we should be the only green team in the NFL. It's the reality of the situation. At number 3, I mentioned it, are the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota got a good win against the Patriots this week, and they go and they play another top 10 team in the Jets this week, and they're at number 3, and it's, again, you got to respect the record. They're 9-2, and even though I'm not the biggest believer in Minnesota, and I don't even have them as my favorites to come out of the NFC. I don't have the Eagles as my favorite to come out of the NFC. I actually have my number 10 team as my favorite to come out of the NFC to go to the Super Bowl in San Francisco. You got to respect that they're 9-2. You got to beat the teams that are in front of you, right? You don't get to pick the schedule. The NFL picks the schedule, and you got to beat the teams in front of you. And Minnesota has done that consistently, and getting a win over the Patriots. And, they're going to lose against the Jets, but that's still not going to change the fact that they're going to be 9-3. 9 wins at this point in the season is exceptionally good. And so Minnesota deserves to be where they're at number 3. And that leads us to number 2, the Philadelphia Eagles. They're 10-1. It's another one of those situations where I don't necessarily super believe in the Philadelphia Eagles, and I don't believe that they're a 10-1 team. But man, the schedule that's in front of you isn't your choice. You just got to beat those teams, and that's what they continue to do. They continue to beat the team in front of them. They beat the Green Bay Packers, and it was a really close game, 40-33. Green Bay looked like the Green Bay of old, high-flying offense. Who cares about defense? And it was a really fun game to watch, Green Bay versus Philly. That being said, Philly walks away on top, and you know what? They've got an interesting matchup coming this week that's going to have playoff implications for the New York Jets and all that stuff, which is the Philadelphia Eagles have to take on the Titans. Now, the Titans just didn't make the top 10. I had them somewhere in that 11 or 12 range, but they just barely didn't make the top 10, and the Titans have an opportunity to squeak in to the top 10 with the Philadelphia Eagles if they beat the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Philadelphia Eagles have a chance to drop out of the top 2 if they lose to the Titans. The Titans are playing exceptionally good defense, and the biggest concern that I have with what's going on in Titanland is how do they produce if they can't get Derrick Henry and the run game going. That's how the Titans ended up losing to the Cincinnati Bengals this week, was based purely on the fact that they couldn't score because the Bengals stopped Derrick Henry relatively well in the run game. I think he had under 70 yards, which is still an impressive day running for a running back. But when you're talking about a guy like Derrick Henry, he is almost a guaranteed, he's a walking 100-yard rusher every day of the week. And it's just a thing. You got to have that conversation. And then that leads the list. At the top of my list is the Kansas City Chiefs. They just beat the Rams, and the Rams are in shambles. They're a broken team, probably going through a Super Bowl hangover. Very, very interesting in my assumption. And they're playing another top 10 team this week in Cincinnati. Kansas City, in my opinion, should win this game. I think they are the better team going into this game, but it should be fun. And I think that's all we can really ask for. But But yeah, those are my top 10. Let's read them off again. San Francisco 49ers at 10, New York Giants at 9, Cincinnati Bengals at 8, New York Jets at 7, Dolphins at 6, Bills at 5, Cowboys at 4, Vikings at 3, Eagles at 2, and the Chiefs at 1. Guys, let me know what you think about my top 10 in the comment section below. And last but not least, go Jets.